Great, thank you. Great, thank you very much, and thanks for the opportunity to present the very unique Alpha story today. I'll be talking about our business, which is based around a range of ultra-high purity aluminium materials, and also the context in which Alpha is commercialising those, particularly around the supply chains that we're working in and the sort of very positive sort of distortion of supply chains by a sort of range of geopolitics and government regulations. So I'll start with a photo of Alpha's first production facility up in Gladstone in Queensland, which is our stage 1 facility, which is now in production, and I'll hopefully describe to you the value proposition of Alpha as we roll out our project and our technology into a second stage, much larger scale production on the same site. So a quick intro into Alpha. We're not a mining business. We have a very unique purification technology that allows us to produce a sort of industry-leading range of aluminium materials for high technology sectors. So we're very much an industrial tech business based around a key processing technology. Our commercialisation vehicle is the HPA first project, as I mentioned, up in Gladstone, and we're doing a 2-stage rollout. So stage 1 is in production on the project site, and we're expanding stage 1 courtesy of a critical minerals grant from the Australian government, and stage 2, again on the same site, is a larger scale rollout of the same technology, which is currently finalising, Alpha's currently finalising FID for stage 2, and we're really pleased to note that we're really well supported by the Australian and Queensland government for stage 2 with a combined $66 million worth of grant monies ready for stage 2 on FID. So we're absolutely sort of delighted with the sort of degree of government support, the recognition of what we're doing and the criticality of our minerals in the supply chains that we're working in. In March 20, we released the DFS, which we reference at the bottom, that we're currently updating, but the March 20 DFS showed an incredibly robust business, around an average around 200 million Australian dollar free cash flow per annum. Now, as I mentioned, we're updating that. Those metrics we expect to be very much preserved, and we look forward to bringing that to the market extremely soon. So as we introduce the business, let me work through the disclaimers, and I really want to talk about Alpha's process because it underpins the business. There's some complexity here which I won't deal with so much, but what I really want to focus on is we take a very low cost raw material from smelters in Rio Tinto's facility in Gladstone, 2 kilometres away, and we use chemicals from our project partner and shareholder Orica, who are 50 metres away, and we combine those with our process technology to produce this ultra-pure aluminium stream, and we're able to direct that into a range of ultra-pure aluminium products. Principal of those is high-purity alumina, HPA, which you'll hear about talking about, but our products are much wider than HPA. They include aluminium salts for cathodes, they include hydroxides for the CMP polishing business, and they include nitrates and sulfates, which are really key products for a full range of sort of high-tech industries. And we're really pleased to sort of note that we're already in production for our first at commercial scale, and we're producing all products at small scale, but expanding those rapidly. If you look across our product range, what I really want to focus here is this is a summary of our product range. So there's 5 sort of key product areas, but you can see at the bottom what sectors that do we service are all high-tech sectors, and they're all sectors where very much critical mineral aspect to them and where supply chains are becoming really critically important. Lithium-ion batteries probably really well understood by the sort of generalist audience. LED lighting probably less understood, and I'll talk a bit more about LED lighting and how that supply chain is being disturbed at the moment, and semiconductors, which many of you will be aware of, particularly here in Southeast Asia, just what a critical industry it is and just how supply chains are being reshaped in that sector and where Alpha plays. So LED lighting I want to talk about first, just because it's, we all kind of take it for granted, but when we talk about decarbonisation, LED lighting is actually the most powerful decarbonising technology that's ever been implemented. It's already saved about 1.4 billion tonnes of CO2 just through lighting efficiency, and that's expected to double again over the next 5 years, so another billion plus tonnes of CO2. 5% of all electricity generated globally is commercial and residential lighting. To give you an idea, if LEDs had never been invented and implemented, that would be closer to 16%. So you can see what an incredible saving it's already produced, and it's now being disrupted again by the introduction of micro LEDs, which is a technology thematic inside LED lighting, which is reshaping this sector again. And I want to highlight the yellow box because this is how Alpha's materials are so critical to the LED sector. We produce high purity alumina is the direct feedstock for sapphire substrates, which almost every LED chip is built upon. Our material goes into LED phosphors, which down convert the light that you see with your eye, and increasingly our precursors are being used for micro LED phosphors. If you look at the LED as a chip, which is simply what it is, it's a light-emitting semiconductor. Instead of built on silicon that you'd be familiar with, LEDs are built on sapphire glass substrates, and sapphire glass is directly grown from high-purity alumina. And you can see on the right-hand side, one of our key products is high-purity alumina tablets, which get converted into monolithic single-crystal sapphire glass, gets wafered down into LED substrates. And our materials also go directly into the phosphors, which go on top. We already have some two key customers in the phosphor space, Lumileds and Litec, both EU-based phosphor producers. We're qualified already with a Japanese producer of aluminium nitride, which is another phosphor material. And we recently announced a very significant transaction in the sapphire glass space that I'm going to talk a little bit more about. But this is why the LED market is particularly, it was already very exciting for the producers of alumina, as it's the base load end use. But the adoption of micro LEDs is set to double the entire sector. So everything and all raw materials that feed into LEDs will be doubled by the adoption of micro LEDs. Bloomberg reported in January that Apple are moving to micro LED displays, and with others expected to follow. And this is a dramatic development for the sector. That means that everybody supplying the sector is set to benefit, and in particular, sapphire glass production. And sapphire glass is the conversion of densified high-purity alumina that Alpha already manufacture into sapphire glass, and this is an example of a sapphire glass bull, as it's referred to in the sector, and that'll get wafered down and LED chips were built upon it. We did a transaction just recently, only 2 weeks ago, to work with a European sapphire glass manufacturer, Ebna Faintech, and we'll be working with them rolling out up to 100 sapphire growth units in the, hopefully, in the Gladstone district as a direct complement to Alpha's existing business. And this is a really exciting development for us because, as I mentioned, it's a really key downstream movement from Alpha. So we're already taking a raw material, converting it in HPA and capturing a downstream uplift, value uplift. And by converting that HPA directly into sapphire glass and participating in that downstream step, the actual value of the material goes up around 20x, but the net revenue movement is around 10x. So it's a really significant value add for Alpha's business. And this is very much related to geopolitics. It sits behind the transaction, Ebna Faintech, and their own customers are very concerned about the sapphire glass sector because it's so Russia-dominated. The largest producer in the world is a monocrystal based in Russia, part owned by the government, Russian government. So it's been sanctioned, and this market is scrambling to backfill a reliable tier one jurisdictional supply of sapphire glass, and Alpha is participating directly in that effort, and with a really high quality tier one partner in Ebna Faintech. So a really important step, and very much enabled by the Australian government support for our business. So if there's ever a case study of governments and critical minerals funding stepping in, supporting a business and accelerating commercial outcomes, we think this is a fantastic case study, and we're incredibly bullish about this step for Alpha's materials. So stay tuned as we scale up Alpha's business in this sector. E-mobility, probably, it's already a sector been well spoken about here and in this forum, so really well understood. Alumina plays a really key role in the lithium-ion battery cell, on the separators to manage thermal management inside the cell, but really importantly, its role in the high nickel cathode precursors as either coatings or dopants, and that's particularly the application that Alpha's working in. And we have, I think, now 4 global cathode OEMs that we're working with, supplying a mix of test products for either dopants or direct synthesis of high nickel cathode materials. Aluminium's not as headline as your nickel, as your lithium, cobalt or manganese materials. It's typically between 1% and 5% of the cathode, so it's much it's a smaller and not as headline grabbing, but it's critically important to high nickel cathode stability and a reliable high purity supply from a tier 1 jurisdiction is one of our sort of key key offering in this space. So I sort of break this down in some more detail. I think in time, if you get the opportunity to come and talk to us in the booth, I'd love to sort of step through these applications in more detail, but principally some examples of our materials coating cathodes, coating lithium-ion battery separators, and coating the anode materials as well. So it's quite a varied and technically relatively complex application, but we have a range, I think, of nearly 12 counterparties that we're in advanced stage qualification test work across separators, cathodes and anode materials. So a really important part of our business. And this is like a kind of a proxy for aluminium material demand. You would have seen sort of similar graphs for lithium, nickel, etc. But even when you're applying 1% to 5% aluminium sulfate in NCA or NCMA cell chemistries, it has a dramatic demand effect on forward demand for aluminium sulfate. So you can see this is a sort of 5x demand in 7 years for aluminium sulfate directly into cathode. Alpha expects to produce between 1,000 and 2,000 tonnes within a 500,000 tonne market. So we're very much a tiny piece of this market, very focused on the premium end use. But it's a really exciting sort of supply-demand setup for Alpha's market entry. And when you look at who's using what chemistries, this is from the P3 group out of Germany, who some of you may know, who support the UBS battery materials research. Essentially everyone in that green box is using or will be using aluminium materials either as a direct synthesis chemistry sold or as a dopant. So they're all in our either actively working with Alpha or on our target list. So we're a significant part of the cathode market, or our materials can go into the cathode market. And the other sector that's been, I think some of the early talkers spoke about the effect of the IRA and just how it is sort of reshoring and friendshoring materials supply to jurisdictions like Australia. The other sector that is being really heavily sort of influenced by government stimulus and government legislation is the semiconductors sector, and in particular the high-end silicon carbide-based processing chips, which are very much the target of the CHIPS Act, the US CHIPS Act. And the reason why we sort of have begun to talk about this sector and it's become a really important part of Alpha's product development business is that we have, for the first time, actually received a lot of inbound calls around our materials being used in the polishing slurries. Polishing slurries for semiconductors is about 7% of the sector, so it's actually a relatively small part of an enormous sector, and therefore it's an enormous market on its own. And Alpha's nanomaterials, nano HPAs, are the key abrasive material that's being tested globally for CMP slurries. We will be incorporating nanomaterials in our final project configuration, and it's become a really important part of our business. But the reshoring thematic really playing into Alpha's sweet spot here. The other sort of critical part of what we do is the carbon profile of how we operate. Because HPA is traditionally manufactured, or indeed all high purity aluminium materials are based around an aluminium metal feedstock, you inherit the carbon profile and the cost profile of an aluminium feedstock. Now Alpha uses a chemical process, we use a a readily available raw material that's very early in the aluminium supply chain. So as a result, we can reduce CO2 emissions by around 70%. And this is incredibly important and increasingly important for our customer target list and the groups that we're working with. So not only do we offer a premium product, but we offer it with essentially a CO2 reduction for free. Just a couple of photos to give you a sense of, visualise the business. Here's our 3,500 square metre facility up in Gladstone. You can see the proximity to Orica and the ability for us to integrate with their processes. We bring process reagents in and return a byproduct, so we have a zero waste residue facility. In the background you can see the source of our feedstock being Rio Yarwun. So it's a fabulous location up there in Gladstone, and we're very, very much leveraging existing industries. So I mentioned Stage 1 is in production. We have well over 100 tonnes of our aluminium nitrate product that we will allocate into some contracts within the next month or two, so please keep an eye out for that. And we're also in the process of converting that material into our alumina products, and here's various photos of products going out the door from our Stage 1 facility. In addition, I mentioned earlier we had a critical minerals grant to expand Stage 1 facility, so everything in pink here is our expansion project. This is running now, so we're an operating facility as well as a construction site, so it's extremely busy. By the end of this year we'll be producing every product within our range at either production or commercial scale, so it's a really exciting development and wonderful to have critical minerals support. And when you look at how our business will scale, as I mentioned, we all on the same site, all owned by Alpha, all permitted. Stage 2, a significant scale up, and now over $60 million of government support already for Stage 2, which is wonderful. We have a global market network. We have agents globally supporting small-scale sales and all of our product development work. This is a really intense qualification process, sometimes takes up to 2.5 years, and we're 3.5 years into engaging with the market, and we're really excited about making some announcements shortly about key customers. Here are the customers and counterparties that we can announce publicly. Most of the test work, you'd appreciate, done under NDA, so once it's reached commercial outcome, we're able to bring that to the market. As the company sort of steadily built and expanded and commercialised its technology, we have, I think, developed a really strong test record of adding value to the business. We expect to continue to do that, and if you look at a 3-year sort of price chart, we have progressively expanded the value of the business, and we're really excited about particularly the next 3 months as we continue to do that. And I thought I'd finish with what was relatively recent news, which is the support of Orica as a major shareholder. Not only have they joined the register, but we're also working with them on a North American expansion project, and this is the reason why. This is the rollout of all of the battery sector capital projects in North America, and our project plans to be next to Orica right there in Alberta to support the North American sector, and this doesn't include the semiconductor rollout, which is a sort of an equivalent map. So please stay tuned, and thank you very much for the opportunity. We really look forward to delivering some really key value catalysts over the next few months. So thank you very much.